I feel like a lot of things in our head, especially as men, is our perceptions of the world aren't very aligned and very skewed. I know I've come to this realization very recently where I realized my like the view of the you have worldview and like how the market views it or whatever, right? Like which is like the general real thing, like that's reality, right? Worldview is reality and perception is how you perceive the world to be, right? And if you have a skewed perception of the world, then it's like you're up here or whatever, and the things that you value or things that matter to you aren't aligned with reality. And very quickly, as you try to put the things that you pursue based off your perceptions into reality, you'll realize why it's like so wrong. So like a clear example was like I thought that if I went to college and got my 4-year degree in a good major, finance, that I would quickly be able to get a job that pays me well or whatever. In reality, right? But in reality, it's like it does not work like that, right? It's you go to college and then you have to network, you have to get internships, you have to do this and this, and then just maybe you'll get an entry level job, which does not pay you well. You got to be in the industry for 2 or 3 years, gain a bunch of skills, network, this and this, job hop or whatever, and then maybe just maybe you'll make a 6-figure salary, which is quite honestly not that much if given how much time and effort you put into it. But like that's what I'm saying. Like my perceived version of what the job world and job market was going to be versus what reality is, right? It was very skewed. It was off. And so now I'm realizing how important it is to get your perception of the world as closely aligned to the world itself, because then when the way you think, the way you act will be in accordance to how the world actually operates, and then you'll have maybe better success or at least faster success because the results that you're looking for will actually happen. Like you won't have false expectations, you won't have false standards, everything will be much more aligned. And that's why it's another very important thing for you to think in a logical manner rather than like being very emotional. You know, as men, it's important for you to be logical. Typically women are more emotional because they just have that much more hormones and that's the way they operate naturally as women. But as a man, it's very important for you to think in a rational, logical manner, which is why a lot of men follow like stoicism, because it's completely rooted in thinking in a logical fashion. Because if you think emotionally, you'll never have conducive or rational ways of thinking and actions. Because if you think off feelings, you'll always have like fleeting moments and you'll act in accordance with those. So if sometimes you'll be mad, sometimes you'll be sad, sometimes you'll be happy, and sometimes you'll be bored, right? And so it's like, say like in accordance to like going to the gym. Imagine you're only going to the gym when you were happy. That means every time you were mad, sad, angry, whatever the case may be, you wouldn't go to the gym, which is not how you achieve success in the gym. Going to the gym is you only achieve a success in the gym by going consistently. So if you only go based off your feelings, you could never become consistent because you're just not thinking logically. You need to go in there. You need to not like, even like motivation's a fleeting feeling. And that's what a lot of men will talk about, the idea of being disciplined, right? Being disciplined is acting disregarding your emotion, right? Which means acting with logic, right? I need to go to the gym because I need to be in shape. That's it, right? So that's right. And then you always go to the gym because you're only focused on the input, you're focused on the logical thing that you need to do. You don't say, I need to go to the gym when I'm happy. I need to go to the gym only when I'm sad, because then you wouldn't be able to do it consistently, right? And so your perceptions of the world matters. And I believe another important thing is when you're talking to someone, you're engaging, you're interacting, and you're exchanging your perceptions of the world. If I'm explaining my perception of the world to a woman, it's gonna be very different than to a man. And just everybody's perceptions of the world are different. So no matter who you're talking to, it's always gonna be different. You're kind of almost always arguing in a sense, or like at least explaining your perception of how you view things. And most likely it's not gonna be the same. And if it is, you guys are like somewhat relatable or whatever, right? Point is, I feel as a man, not only do you need your perception to be aligned with the world, but you also need to control your perception, control the perception of others, right? And not in like a manipulative, like this is somewhat ethical or whatever, right? But it's like when you're talking to someone brand new, you need to control the perception that they may have of you, because there's no benefit for you to reveal everything, right? Like the idea of like, if you ever read the 48 Laws of Power, conceal your intentions. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. It's like, if you're talking to a girl and you're trying to like sleep with this girl, you're not gonna tell her that you're like bad in bed, or you don't have a bed, or you don't have a house. Like you're not gonna directly say that you want to sleep with her, right? Because you know that's repulsive for her, and all the other things that I said would be unattractive for her to move forward with your intentions, right? So unless she directly asked then you can be, and I believe you should be authentic and you shouldn't lie. I hate liars. I feel like lying is just like so useless, and it just, lying complicates things way more than you would even think, and it keeps a ball, like, once you make one lie, the snowball starts rolling and rolling, and you have to keep like accommodating for this lie, and this burns so much energy, and then you burn potential opportunities and maybe even friendships. Like, say you're talking to someone and then you say like, I'm in the job market for consulting or whatever, right? And then they believe this lie, because why else would why would they not believe it, right? If it makes sense, they're gonna believe it. And now they might be looking for, and say you didn't want this consulting job, right? They might look for jobs for you in consulting. They might give you consulting advice, and then you get a different job opportunity, right? And you're like, you want to talk to them about like interviewing and practicing interview with them or whatever the case may be, right? But you can't, because they're like, hey, didn't you say you want to be in consulting? And now you got to accommodate for this lie, and it's just so much burnt energy. That was like a smaller, like whatever lie, but it's like, this happens with all lies. It just keeps snowballing. You got to always accommodate for it, and like you're burning your energy, their energy, you're burning time. It's like, it's just not worth it. And so I genuinely believe in being authentic. It makes life easier. If you were authentic with what you actually wanted, they could have actually helped you. But I believe conceal your intentions, but be authentic when directly asked. So if I have a certain view of or perspective on something, and I know that the other person might not agree with this thing, but it's my perception, it's how I view it, and as long as it logically makes sense to me and it works out for me, then it's fine. And I won't go out of my way to explain this to the person, because they might be offended, we might go into an argument for no reason, we might lose connection, we might not be friends anymore, whatever it may be. I'm not gonna go about and tell them unless they directly ask me. If they directly ask me, I'm gonna say whatever I need to say, because being authentic is so important. Not lying is so important. And I've recently learned that being authentic with yourself is the highest level of transcendency. So you will feel better than you will ever feel being authentic. And so like you literally vibrate at the highest levels within yourself, which makes sense, because when you lie, you have this like weird feeling where you're like, that felt a little bit icky. So then the opposite of that would be authentic, being truthful. So it's like, why wouldn't, like, the idea that being authentic and being yourself makes you feel good just makes sense. Like, it just logically makes sense. Like, why would you want to be anyone other than yourself? Like, being comfortable within yourself to say what you want to say, do what you want to do. It's like, of course you're going to feel good about it, right? And so I genuinely believe, if in all case scenarios, always try to control the perceptions of others, right? Do not conceal your intentions, and do not give more information than it is needed, especially if not asked. There is no reason for someone to have more information on you than it was not needed. Like, if you're trying to sleep with this girl, you don't need to tell her about like that you're not having a bed frame, or that you don't have a job, or like whatever. Like, the more information you release, the more you are vulnerable. So you should be concealing intention, but also concealing information about yourself, because the more information that is out there allows other people to, in their head, they fill up the gaps. So if you say one thing, like if you told this girl or whatever that you don't have a bed frame, maybe you don't want a bed frame, whatever the case may be, right? But in her head, she's gonna fill it up with, this guy's sloppy, this guy's not organized, this guy doesn't have no money, right? So it's like, people will fill the gaps in their imagination with whatever information you give them, unless you give them the full story. And you can never give them the full story, because you never have that much time. You never want to explain all those little details or whatever the case may be. So you tell people only the things that they directly ask for, or the things that you want them to know. And that's why it's also important to just, with me, even myself, I try to hold as much of my own information to myself. I won't even tell friends and family, because the more people that know, the more it'll spread naturally. Especially if you tell women do not know how to close their mouth. If you ever expect yourself to tell a secret to a woman and think she's not telling her friends or her family or something, you're deeply mistaken. And it's easy to not trust any women and trust one or two. It's like, if you're gonna trust someone, trust your wife or whatever the case may be. But even though, then I guarantee you she's telling someone. So it's like, withhold in all your private information that you wouldn't want other people to have, because then they can skew their perceptions of you, right? So conceal your intentions, conceal your information, but always be authentic, because lying is just not worth it and causes you to burn time, energy, and connections, and it's just not worth the menial way you could have helped. If the lie outweighs the potential, like, I genuinely believe sometimes lying, like if it's super small and it's like not someone you would like reoccurrently interact with, then I guess it's fine. Like, if like I told some guy who was trying to like get me into like you know those guys who like try to sell you something, like they're trying to sell you something, and you're like, oh, I'm too busy to do so and so, I have to go talk to my friends. Like those small little lies where you're not gonna interact with this person again, it's like fine, whatever. It's like this doesn't really matter. But if it's someone that you're trying to like consistently talk to, always be authentic, because it's just not worth lying. Keep these two things in mind. Conceal your intentions, withhold your information, control, and those two will allow you to control your perceptions. Don't lie, be authentic, and you'll feel at your highest level of transcendency while maintaining connections and energy and time with people. And in the end, we're gonna